Hey, what's up everybody? It's Mike B with Bombero Bus, and today we're gonna head in the barn and get to work on my brother's long block for the 1700 build. So let's get to it. So there it is in all its glory. If it doesn't look like much right now, it's because it's an old case. It's an old single relief case. We found it to be bored 60 over, so it's been a line bored 3 times. We're just going to try to squeeze the last bit of life out of it that we can. So we left the stock 69 millimeter crank, stock rods. We just put some new bearings in it, and we put a 110 cam in there. On the top end, we're going to use the AA 500 series heads that we just did a video on, and we're going to use the thick-walled 88 from AA also. So it'll be a 1679, aka the 1700. Now before we go forward with the build in this video, I want to get something out of the way early on in case you end up not watching the entirety of this video. And this is the most important thing that I think we've found so far, so I'm going to get it out of the way up front. But this car was bought and the previous owner rebuilt it, and it has ran well for many miles. At the end, it started getting low pressure. The oil light was flickering, and we couldn't figure out, why. Of course, there's a number of reasons, and that's part of why we tore this down. And then right at the end, the cam gear went out. So the engine had to come out and be torn down. Of course, we found the loose cam gear. There's a video on that, but here's what we've found now. This engine, we believe, was converted from the old early model oil cooler that goes inside the housing. It was converted to a later style oil cooler that goes in this doghouse now. That's great. You have a bigger oil cooler, cools your oil a lot better, but you have to also change the fan. We found the early model fan inside this housing, and it's too small. It's 29 millimeters from there to there. That's too small to cool the later model, bigger oil cooler. You need, and so we got this 35 millimeter fan from there to there, and it's going to do a much better job. It's the proper fan for your doghouse oil cooler. Now, I don't know if they didn't know that. This happens a lot from what I understand. People do the conversion on their oil cooler from the early model to the late model, but they don't change the fan. And is it the cause of his hot oil and flickering oil light? Probably so. Is that the cause of why his cam gear wiped out? I can neither prove nor confirm nor deny that, but a lot of people would argue that it probably is. So just wanted to get that out of the way up front. Now, hey, let's move forward and try to build this model. It's ever happened, but it probably has happened. But wait, let's slow things down a little bit and show you what we're doing, and we'll do it on this 3/4 side. We went ahead and got the 1-2 together. So let's take a step-by-step on this top end for the 3/4 side. Thing is these spigots into the case. We're gonna clean them off really good so that, our sealant will adhere to it. Now that this is clean, we're going to go ahead and get our sealer on there, and we're using Permatex Gray high temp resist fuel and oil. So let's get a bead of that across there and we'll drop it. There it is. Good squish. We're going to do a little preventative maintenance with the rag there in case we drop that clip. Now you can see what I'm saying. We're going to set the wrist pin in to where we can come from this way with it, so we can put that clip in. And it has happened. We've dropped the clip into a case before and we got it out, no big deal, but it's something we could prevent, so we'll go ahead and put that rag there. And here we go with the number 4. All right, good squish. Okay, 3 and 4 is on. There's 3, arrow to the flywheel, 4, arrow to the flywheel. Kind of get a look at our deck height there. Of course, it's going to change just a smidgen when we torque it down, but that looks pretty good for his compression ratio, which shooting at 8 1/4 to 1, and it's because of that 110 cam that we put in there. So we'll see how that fires. All right, snagged some new push rod tubes. Gonna get some new seals put on those. They're gonna go here. And the thing about those is just when the head goes on, you really have to watch the push rod tubes as you're coming down on it and torquing, that those push rod tubes are seating proper at both the seals at the case and at the head. A little thin coat of oil around the outside of the seals. And then here's the beautiful thing, 87.95, aka the 88s. And look at the thick wall on that cylinder, man. And then on the bottom, we're gonna go ahead and put the deflector in there. You gotta have it. That air is gonna be coming in from on the top, and you don't want to lose it out of the bottom. So when the air comes through the cylinders and hits that, you want it to be spread out. Wrap itself lovingly around your cylinders. All right, we got the washers and the nuts on. Now we're going to torque it down in a series. We're going to do 8, 16, and then 24. And the sequence is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the long block for the most part is complete. Now we're going to get to work up here getting his oil cooler installed. Here's our attempt to get the rocker geometry right. We suspected we'd be able to use the stock push rods with it. And, even though there's a cam in there, we didn't do anything to really require a shorter push rod. It's going to get that adjusted to, you're going to do 4 or 4 thousandths right here. And we're going to take a look at the geometry from the side, and see if this is going to work. Now we're going to measure it this way with the dial indicator, and you see why we have reservations about the accuracy of it with this flexible arm, but it's actually seems pretty stiff on there, so it should work out pretty good. The main thing is that you make sure the stem here is preloaded enough for the downward travel that it's going to try to measure. So now this number 1 exhaust is fully closed. we're going to open it up and see what kind of lift the dial indicator says. One, two, three, four,
$4.10.
all right, 410.
Go back to 205.
Yep, that means we're going to back it back around to 205. Two, oh, 5. So that should be the mid lift. So here we are at half lift now with the 60 thousandths shim underneath the rocker. So if you look at, you know, the bottom of the cup right there and the tip of the valve stem, that looks to be a pretty straight line. Let's see if I can line it up. Relative to this. So the geometry there looks okay, and it seems to be striking the valve pretty flat. It could be flatter, but you know, that's the first shim in there, and that's what it's looking like with the 60 thousandths shim. So not too bad. So the long story short is we did it a couple more times with the dial indicator, double checked it a couple more times, and we ended up with a 420 lift for that cam, which it advertises 430. But the 420 lift measured multiple times is better than the 410 lift that we got the first time. So we went with 420. We're using a half lift of 210, and we ended up with 90 thousandths of shims to get a nice flat strike here at the valve, and to have our cup to valve tip line be parallel with this head. So that's what we like. We're going to move on with the rest of this build. Well, there it is in its entirety. We've got the tin installed and the exhaust. So don't let it fool you, because underneath that unassuming exterior lies a 1700 just begging to get out. Somehow it seems to the cylinder, the head tin seems to have moved up, because this gap is here now on both sides, which wasn't there before. And then it had to be trimmed underneath the header on both sides also. And the same with the back. A little bit of trimming there. So I don't know that it means that this head is taller than the stock one, but somehow it just seems that the tin had moved up a little bit, and I don't know why. But it didn't take much work to get it to fit, so that was good news for us. There's only one thing left to do, and that's to break it in and then get it in the car and get back to doing what we really love, driving these, driving them. That comes first. And if you want to do that, and you're just a firefighter and a construction worker, you have to learn to work on them. And that's what has led us down this journey. Our love of driving them has forced us to learn how to work on them, and that's an ongoing process. We're not professionals or experts. We're doing the best we can. So I do love your comments and advice, but for this, we're going to call it a wrap. Thanks for hanging out with us. If it helped you, feel free to like and subscribe. If it didn't, again, leave a comment and let me know what's up. But either way, thanks for hanging out with Bombero Bus, and we'll catch you on the next one.